The first time I saw a human mother, I thought she looked soft. That was my mistake. My name is Krell, and I serve as a security officer aboard the merchant vessel Spiral Dawn. We dock at over 40 stations across 7 sectors, trading in everything from medical supplies to terraforming equipment. It is boring work, mostly. The occasional drunk needs escorting back to their quarters, sometimes cargo goes missing, and very rarely, someone tries something stupid. This particular rotation, we had picked up a human family at Station Kelmar. A woman named Victoria, her daughter Mira, who looked to be maybe 6 standard years old, and their pet. I need to explain something about humans before we continue. They are a newer species to the galactic community, only about 70 years integrated into our commerce networks. They come from a death world called Earth, which should have been your first warning sign, but they hide it well. They smile easily, they laugh at their own fragility. They make friends with nearly every species they encounter, even the ones who find them unsettling. They seem harmless. Victoria was average height for a human, with brown hair pulled back in something they call a ponytail. She wore simple traveling clothes and carried a small bag. Her daughter Mira had the same brown hair, cut shorter, and she clutched a stuffed animal that looked like some sort of earth creature. The pet, though? The pet was interesting. It was called a honey badger. The creature was maybe 3 feet long, built low to the ground, with black fur on its body and a white stripe running from its head down its back. It had small eyes, rounded ears, and it walked with the confidence of something twice its size. Victoria kept it on a harness and leash, though I got the impression this was more for show than actual restraint. When they boarded, I processed their credentials. Standard passenger transit, paid in full. Destination 3 jumps away at Station Turthos. Nothing unusual. I handed back their documentation. "Welcome aboard the Spiral Dawn," I said, keeping my tone professional. "Passenger quarters are on Deck 7. Meal services run at standard intervals. Is this your first time traveling on a Vrin-operated vessel?" Victoria smiled. "It is, actually. We appreciate you accommodating, Pepper." She gestured to the honey badger, which was currently sniffing my boot with what seemed like deep suspicion. "The pet registration was approved," I confirmed. "Though I must ask, is it safe? Some of our crew are smaller species and might find it intimidating." Victoria laughed. It was a warm sound, genuinely amused. "Pepper? Oh, she is a sweetheart. As long as nobody threatens Mira, we will not have any problems." The way she said it made something in my spines prickle, but I dismissed the feeling. Humans were known for being protective of their young. This was not news. "Understood," I said. "Safe travels." They headed toward the passenger decks, the honey badger waddling along beside them, and I returned to my duties. The trouble started 2 days into the voyage. We had taken on additional cargo at a minor way station, including a group of Heskran traders. The Heskran are, how do I put this diplomatically? They are not well liked. They follow the letter of galactic law, while violating its spirit at every opportunity. Slave trading is illegal, but contract manipulation, coerced labor agreements, exploiting legal loopholes to acquire workers who have no realistic way to leave their service? The Heskran are experts. They kept to themselves mostly, which was fine by me. They had rented a private cargo bay for their goods and paid the premium rate for non-inspection, which the captain allowed because technically they were within their rights. I did not like it, but my job was security, not ethics enforcement. On the 3rd day, I was doing my rounds on Deck 7 when I heard raised voices. I quickened my pace, following the sound to the communal lounge area. Victoria stood in front of her daughter. Her body language completely changed from the friendly passenger I had checked in days earlier. Her shoulders were squared, her stance was wide, and her smile was gone. Facing her were 3 Heskran traders. The leader, a tall specimen named Grick, was holding a datapad and gesturing aggressively. "The contract is legitimate," Grick was saying, his translator rendering his clicking speech into something approximating anger. "The child qualifies under subsection 43 of the labor recruitment codes. Minors can be contracted for educational work programs with parental consent." "I did not give consent," Victoria said. Her voice was very calm. Too calm. "Your digital signature is on file," Grick insisted. "When you purchased transit tickets, you agreed to promotional offers and partnership programs. The child is now contracted for a youth training initiative. It is all legal. I stepped forward. Is there a problem here? Grick turned to me, clearly annoyed by the interruption. This is a contractual matter, officer. It does not concern station security. Anything that disturbs passengers on this vessel concerns me, I replied. Let me see the contract. He thrust the datapad at me. I scanned through it quickly, and my stomach sank. It was technically legal. Buried in the transit agreement fine print was language about optional partnership programs, and there was indeed a digital signature that matched Victoria's credentials. It was a scam, obviously. One that exploited automated signing processes and deliberately confusing legal language. But it would hold up in court, probably. This is ridiculous, I said slowly. The intent is clearly fraudulent. Intent is not relevant, Grick said smugly. The law is clear. The contract is valid for 18 standard months. We will provide housing, education, and appropriate compensation as outlined. The child comes with us when we disembark at the next station. I looked at Victoria. Her expression had not changed, but I noticed her hands were shaking. Not with fear, with rage. No, she said simply. Grick laughed. It was an unpleasant sound. You do not have a choice, human. The contract is binding. If you interfere, you will face legal penalties including fines and potential imprisonment for contract violation. I suggest you say goodbye to your offspring and accept reality. That was when Mira started crying. The little girl, who had been standing behind her mother this entire time, began sobbing. She grabbed onto Victoria's leg and pressed her face against it, her small body shaking. Mama, I do not want to go, she cried. Please do not let them take me. Something shifted in the air. I cannot explain it properly, but if you have ever been in the presence of a predator that has decided to stop pretending, you understand. The temperature seemed to drop. The lighting seemed dimmer. Victoria's eyes, which had been brown and warm when I first met her, now looked like polished stone. You are not taking my daughter, she said, and every word landed like a hammer blow. Grick was either very stupid or very confident in his legal standing. Probably both. He reached for Mira. He never got close. Pepper, the honey badger who had been sleeping in the corner of the lounge, came off the floor like a missile. I have seen combat footage from a dozen conflicts. I have watched predators hunt on nature documentaries. I have never seen anything move with such focused violence as that 20-pound ball of fur and fury. The honey badger hit Grick's extended arm and her teeth sank in deep. The Heskren screamed, a high-pitched shriek that echoed off the walls. He tried to shake her off, but she held on. Her powerful jaws locked, her claws raking at his scales. The other two Heskren moved to help their companion, but Victoria was faster. She stepped forward, grabbed one by his articulated throat plates, and slammed him against the wall, with enough force that I heard the impact across the room. The third one pulled what looked like a shock prod, and Victoria simply took it away from him, just grabbed it out of his hands like taking a toy from a child, then jabbed him in his torso with it. He went down convulsing. Pepper released Grick's arm, which was now bleeding profusely, and climbed up his body to his face. He fell backwards, screaming and flailing, while the honey badger proceeded to demonstrate why her species is considered one of the most fearless animals on Earth. It was over in maybe 10 seconds. 3 Heskren traders were on the floor. One was bleeding from multiple wounds. One was unconscious from hitting the wall. One was still twitching from the shock prod. Victoria stood over them, breathing hard, the shock prod still in her hand. Pepper sat on Grick's chest, her fur bristled, making a sound that can only be described as a growl crossed with a snarl. Mira had stopped crying. She was watching her mother with absolute trust. I should have called for backup immediately. I should have detained Victoria for assault. I should have done my job according to protocol. Instead, I looked at the datapad still in my hand, and I dropped it. The screen cracked when it hit the floor. Oops. Clumsy of me. Now the contract data might be corrupted. What happened here? I asked, my voice neutral. Victoria looked at me. Really looked at me. She was calculating whether I was a threat or an ally. They tried to take my daughter, she said simply. I defended her. I nodded slowly. I see. And these individuals? They attacked us first, Victoria said. Self-defense. That was absolutely not what happened. We both knew it. But I looked at the 3 Heskren, at the little girl still holding her mother's leg, at the honey badger who was now licking Grick's blood off her paws, and I made a decision. I will need to file a report, I said. It will take me some time to get all the details correct. You should return to your quarters and secure your pet. For safety reasons. Understanding flickered across Victoria's face. Of course, officer. We want to cooperate fully. She picked up Pepper, who went limp and docile in her arms immediately, and took Mira's hand. They left the lounge quickly. I waited until they were gone, then activated my communicator. Medical team to Deck 7 lounge, multiple injuries. Also, I need someone from legal up here. We have a contract dispute that just became violent. The next few hours were chaos. The Heskren were treated for their injuries, none of which were life-threatening but all of which were painful and humiliating. They demanded Victoria be arrested. They threatened lawsuits. They screamed about their rights and proper legal procedures. The captain, a pragmatic Vryn named Telos, listened to everyone's statements. He reviewed what was left of the security footage, which conveniently had some corrupted sections. Technical glitch. These things happen. He examined the contract, or tried to, but the data was damaged when I dropped the pad. Another unfortunate accident. In the end, he made his ruling. The contract is invalid due to insufficient documentation, Captain Telos announced. Furthermore, security footage shows the Heskren traders making threatening gestures toward a minor passenger, which constitutes assault under vessel safety regulations. They will be confined to their quarters for the remainder of the voyage, and will disembark at the next station, where local authorities can pursue whatever legal remedies they feel are appropriate. The Heskren protested, of course. But the captain's word is law on his ship, and they knew it. Victoria and Mira were cleared of wrongdoing. Self-defense, case closed. Later that evening, I found Victoria on the observation deck. She was alone, watching the stars stream past as we traveled through jump space. Pepper was curled up at her feet, looking for all the world like an innocent pet. Thank you, Victoria said quietly when I approached. I just filed an accurate report, I replied. She smiled slightly. Of course you did. We stood in silence for a moment. Then I had to ask, what would you have done if I had not helped? Victoria looked at me, and that predator intensity was back in her eyes. Whatever I had to do. She is my daughter. There is no force in this galaxy that will take her from me while I am breathing. I believed her completely. The honey badger, I said. Why do humans keep such creatures as pets? Victoria laughed softly. Pepper is not really a pet. She is family. On Earth, honey badgers are known for their fearlessness. They fight off lions. They shrug off venomous snake bites. They do not back down. Ever. When Mira was born, I knew I wanted her to grow up, understanding that kind of courage. So you got a honey badger. So I got a honey badger. I shook my head. Humans were insane. Beautifully, terrifyingly insane. You should know, I said carefully. The Heskren have connections. Criminal connections. They will not forget this. Victoria's expression did not change. Let them remember. Let them remember what happens when someone tries to take a human child. Let them tell their friends. She bent down and scratched Pepper behind the ears. The honey badger made a contented rumbling sound. We might seem soft, Victoria continued. We smile a lot. We make friends easily. We try to be diplomatic and follow the rules. But there are lines you do not cross. And threatening our children? She straightened up and met my gaze. That is the brightest, boldest line there is. I nodded slowly. I will remember that. Good. We parted ways then. I returned to my duties, and she went back to her quarters with her daughter and her impossibly brave little creature. The rest of the voyage was uneventful. The Heskren stayed confined. Victoria and Mira kept to themselves. Pepper waddled around their quarters, probably dreaming honey. Badger dreams of glorious combat. When we docked at the next station, I personally escorted the Heskren off the vessel. They shot poisonous looks at me but said nothing. They knew they had lost. I watched them disappear into the station crowds, and I filed the whole incident in my memory under important lessons learned. Never underestimate a human parent, and definitely never underestimate their honey badger. What I did not know, what none of us knew, was that the Heskren were not done. They had connections, yes, dangerous connections. and they were about to make a mistake so catastrophic that it would become a cautionary tale across 6 sectors. But that part of the story was still to come. For now, the Spiral Dawn prepared to depart for the next leg of our journey, carrying its passengers toward their destinations, including one human mother, one human child, and one honey badger who had just proven why her species earned their reputation. The soft-looking ones, I had learned, are sometimes the most dangerous of all. The next station was Turthos Prime, a massive commercial hub, where the Spiral Dawn would dock for a full rotation, while cargo was transferred and systems were maintained. It was supposed to be a routine stop. Victoria and Mira were scheduled to disembark here, their final destination reached without further incident. I should have known better than to expect routine. The docking process went smoothly enough. I helped with passenger processing, checked manifests, and made sure everything was squared away. Victoria came through with Mira and Pepper, all their documentation in order. Safe travels, I told her, meaning it sincerely. She smiled. That same warm expression from when we first met. Thank you, Krell, for everything. They headed down the boarding ramp into the station, and I watched them go with something like relief. Good people, but complicated. I was happy they reached their destination safely. I should have kept watching. 2 hours. Later, my communicator crackled to life. It was Captain Telos, and his voice had an edge I rarely heard. Krell, get to my ready room immediately. I arrived within 3 minutes. The captain was standing at his viewport, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the station. Next to him stood a human male I did not recognize, tall and lean with graying hair and wearing what looked like civilian clothes, but something about his posture screamed military. Officer Krell, the captain said without turning around. This is Marcus Webb. He works for Human Diplomatic Security. Apparently, we have a significant problem. Marcus turned to face me. His eyes were cold, analytical, measuring. The Heskrin traders you removed from this vessel, they contacted associates here on Turthos. Those associates just attempted to abduct Victoria Reeves and her daughter from the transit plaza 15 minutes ago. My spines went rigid. Attempted? They failed, Marcus said flatly. Pepper got 2 of them before Victoria disabled the other 3. Station security responded, but the abductors scattered. We have 5 injured hostiles in custody and 0 leads on who hired them. Except we both know who hired them. Captain Telos finally turned around. This is now a diplomatic incident. If harm comes to human civilians because of actions taken aboard my vessel, there will be consequences. The human government takes a very dim view of threats against their children. Where are Victoria and Mira now? I asked. Secure location, Marcus replied. Station security has them in protective custody. But Turthos is a big station with lots of dark corners, and the Heskrin have money and connections here. We need to move them off station, fast. The Spiral Dawn can provide transport, Captain Telos offered. Marcus shook his head. Appreciated, but they need to disappear completely. The Heskrin network will be watching registered vessels. We have alternate arrangements being made, but there is a timing problem. The secure transport does not arrive for another 8 hours, and we just intercepted chatter suggesting a second attempt is being organized. How many hostiles? I asked. Unknown. Could be a dozen. Could be more. These contract traders have deep pockets when they want revenge badly enough. Marcus looked at me directly. I understand you helped Mrs. Reeves during the initial incident. Captain Telos spoke highly of your discretion. I understood what he was really asking. What do you need? Someone who knows the station layout. Someone who can move quietly and knows how to handle themselves if things go wrong. Someone who understands exactly what these people are capable of. Marcus pulled out a data chip. This contains the location where Victoria and Mira are being held. I need someone to escort them to Docking Bay 47 Alpha, Sublevel 6. There is a private yacht registered under a dummy corporation waiting there. Get them on that ship, and they vanish into a network the Heskrin cannot touch. Captain Telos looked at me. This is entirely voluntary, officer. You have already done more than your duty required. I thought about Mira crying, begging her mother not to let the bad people take her. I thought about Victoria standing between her child and danger without hesitation. I thought about Pepper, that fearless little creature who fought like something 10 times her size. Give me the chip, I said. Marcus handed it over. You will have backup. Human security personnel are moving into position, but they need 30 minutes to deploy without drawing attention. Can you hold that long if you encounter resistance? I can hold, I said, hoping it was true. One more thing, Marcus said. Victoria does not know about the second threat yet. Station security thought it was better not to panic her, but she is not stupid. She will figure it out quickly. When she does, she is going to want to fight. Do not let her. Your job is to get her and her daughter to safety, nothing else. Understood? I nodded. Understood. 20 minutes later, I was moving through the lower maintenance corridors of Turthos Prime with my service weapon charged and my nerves singing with tension. The location on the data chip led to a secure room in the administrative sector, the kind of place station security used for witness protection and sensitive interviews. I reached the door and entered my security override code. The lock disengaged with a soft click. I pushed inside. Victoria was on her feet instantly, positioned between the door and where Mira sat on a bench. Pepper was on the floor, already alert, and watching me with those small, calculating eyes. Officer Krell, Victoria said, surprise and suspicion mixing in her voice. What are you doing here? Getting you out, I replied simply. There is another group coming. Bigger, better organized. We have a narrow window to move you to a secure transport. Her expression shifted, going through several emotions in quick succession before settling on grim determination. How many? Unknown. Possibly a dozen or more. Then we need weapons. No, I said firmly. We need to move fast and quiet. Fighting is the last resort. Victoria looked at me like I had suggested something profoundly stupid. They are coming for my daughter. Again, I am not running and hoping for the best. Your job is to protect Mira, I said, keeping my voice level. My job is to get you both to safety. Let me do my job. We locked eyes. I could see her calculating, weighing options, measuring risks. Finally, she nodded once. Fine, but if shooting starts, I want a weapon. If shooting starts, you will have bigger problems, I muttered. Come on, we need to move. I led them out into the corridor. The route I had planned avoided main thoroughfares and public areas, sticking to maintenance passages and service tunnels that most station visitors never knew existed. It would take longer, but it reduced the chance of running into trouble. We made it 3 corridors before my luck ran out. 2 Heskryn stepped out from a side passage ahead of us. They were armed with shock batons and wore the kind of cheap body armor that criminals loved because it was just barely legal. When they saw us, they smiled. The human and her spawn, one of them said, Grick sends his regards. I stepped forward, putting myself between them and Victoria. Walk away. Last chance. They laughed. Then they charged. I got the first one with my shock weapon, a clean hit to his center mass that dropped him twitching. The second one was faster, dodging my follow-up shot and swinging his baton at my head. I blocked with my forearm, felt the impact jar my bones, and drove my knee into his midsection. He folded. Behind me, I heard Victoria say one word, Pepper. The honey badger was already moving. She hit the second Heskryn while he was still doubled over, climbing up his back and biting down on the back of his neck where the armor had gaps. He screamed and fell, trying desperately to dislodge her. We need to go, now, I shouted. Victoria scooped up Mira, and we ran. Pepper caught up 30 seconds later, looking extremely pleased with herself. I did not ask what she had done to the Heskryn. I did not want to know. We took 3 more turns, descended 2 levels via a maintenance shaft, and emerged into a dimly lit corridor that smelled like recycled air and machine oil. According to my display, Docking Bay 47 Alpha was just ahead. That was when we heard the voices. Multiple voices, coming from the direction we needed to go. I held up a hand, and we stopped. I crept forward to the intersection, and carefully looked around the corner. 6 Heskryn, all armed, 3 with shock batons and 3 with actual energy weapons. They were positioned in front of the docking bay entrance, clearly waiting for us. I pulled back. They are blocking the exit. Victoria moved up next to me and took her own look. Her jaw tightened. 6 against 1. Bad odds. I have backup coming, I said. We just need to hold position and wait. How long? I checked my communicator. 15 minutes. Victoria looked at me, then at Mira, then back at the hostiles. I could see her doing the math. 15 minutes was a long time when people with weapons were hunting you. There is another way, I said slowly. Service tunnel, runs parallel to the main corridor, comes out on the other side of the docking bay. But it is narrow, and if they realize we are flanking them, we will be trapped. Better than waiting here like targets, Victoria said. She was probably right. I led them back the way we came and found the access panel for the service tunnel. It was barely 3 feet high and maybe 4 feet wide, designed for maintenance drones and the occasional repair technician. We would have to crawl. Mira goes first, I said. Then you, then me. Stay quiet, stay close. The little girl looked scared but determined. She got down on her hands and knees and crawled into the tunnel without complaint. Victoria followed, carrying Pepper tucked against her chest. I brought up the rear, my weapon drawn and every nerve screaming. The tunnel was dark and claustrophobic. Our movements echoed slightly, despite our best efforts to stay quiet. I kept checking my rear, expecting to see pursuers at any moment. We crawled for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 5 minutes. Finally, I saw another access panel ahead. We had made it. I moved past Victoria and Mira, reaching for the panel release. When I open this, we run straight for the docking bay. Do not stop, do not look back. Understood? They both nodded. I popped the panel and dropped into the corridor beyond, weapon up and sweeping for targets. Clear. I helped Victoria and Mira out, then looked toward the docking bay entrance. The door was 30 meters away, between us and safety. So close. We ran. We made it 15 meters, before someone shouted behind us. The Heskren had spotted us. I heard the distinctive whine of energy weapons charging. Keep running, I yelled. A bolt of energy sizzled past my head, close enough that I felt the heat. I turned and fired back blind, just trying to make them duck. It worked for about 2 seconds, then they opened up with everything. I grabbed Victoria and threw us both against the wall, trying to use the minimal cover available. Mira was crying again, and Pepper was making that growling snarl sound. Energy bolts scorched the walls around us. This was very bad. Then I heard the most beautiful sound in the galaxy. Return fire. Different weapons, different angles. Marcus Webb and 4 other humans in tactical gear came around the corner behind the Heskren and lit them up with precision shots that dropped 3 hostiles in as many seconds. The remaining Heskren broke and ran. The humans pursued, moving with professional efficiency that made my security training look amateur. Marcus jogged up to us. You folks okay? Define okay, Victoria said shakily. Alive and mobile counts. He gestured toward the docking bay. Ship is prepped and ready. Time to go. We made it to the docking bay without further incident. The yacht was exactly what Marcus had promised. Anonymous, fast, and equipped with stealth systems that would make tracking it nearly impossible. The pilot was already running pre-flight checks. Thank you, Victoria said to me at the boarding ramp. Again. Try to avoid contract traders for a while, I suggested. She laughed weakly. That is the plan. Mira hugged my leg suddenly. Thank you for saving us, Officer Krell. Something warm and uncomfortable lodged itself in my chest. You are welcome, little one. Stay safe. They boarded. Pepper gave me one last look before disappearing inside, and I swear that honey badger nodded at me with respect. Marcus stayed behind as the ship sealed up and began its launch sequence. We will make sure they reach their destination. The Heskren will be dealt with through official channels. And quietly, several of their operations on this station will experience unfortunate accidents over the next few weeks. I did not hear that, I said. Good. Marcus extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. You did well today, Krell. The human government appreciates it. I shook his hand. Nice. Just doing my job. No, Marcus said seriously. You went well beyond your job. That matters. If you ever need anything, you have friends among humanity now. The yacht launched, its engines flaring bright before it shot out of the docking bay and disappeared into the traffic patterns around the station. I watched it go, feeling oddly satisfied despite the chaos of the last few hours. Captain Telos found me an hour later, after I had filed all the necessary reports and cleaned myself up. The station authorities are calling it a gang dispute. No mention of our involvement or the passengers. Clean resolution. Good, I said tiredly. The Human Diplomatic Corps sent a formal thank you, the captain continued. along with a rather generous payment for our troubles and your specific assistance. Not necessary, I said. I know. But they insist. Humans are big on honor and debts, apparently. Captain Telos regarded me thoughtfully. You have changed your assessment of them, I think. I thought about Victoria standing fearless against threats, about Mira trusting her mother completely, about Pepper throwing herself into combat without hesitation. They are tougher than they look, I said finally. Much tougher. And they do not forget when you threaten their families. Valuable information, the captain agreed. Information that will spread, I imagine. The Heskrans certainly learned it today. I nodded. Word would get around. That was how the galaxy worked. Stories traveled fast, especially stories about humans doing the impossible. Somewhere out there, Victoria and Mira were heading toward safety, protected by their government and accompanied by one fearless honey badger. The Heskran would eventually lick their wounds and go back to their schemes, but they would remember. They would remember what happened when they tried to take a human child. They would remember that the honey badger arrived first, and that would make them think twice before trying again. As for me, I returned to my duties aboard the Spiral Dawn. Same job, same routes, same boring security work. But I carried with me a new understanding. Humans were not to be underestimated. Not their strength, not their determination, and definitely not their capacity for protective violence when their children were threatened. They seemed soft. Yes. They smiled and made friends and tried to get along, until you crossed the line. Then you met the honey badger. And by then, it was already too late.